remembering collectively and turning episodes of history into a reason for joy or celebration is also something beautiful.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of our diversity and inclusion speaker series. We have two incredible people here today. Eileen from Vitalia Active Adult Community, Solon. Hello, Eileen. Hello.
Well, hi there.
And we have Clemence, I hope I said that right, an associate professor of Jewish and Israel Studies at Columbia.
Isn't that wonderful? She'll know everything.
She will. Our topic today is Hanukkah, its history, and what it means. And so, Clemence, can you kind of start us off right there?
Right. So how about starting with what Hanukkah means, right? So it means in Hebrew consecration. Why is this? It is the story of the reconsecration of the Temple of Jerusalem more than 2,000 years ago. So what happens is that Hanukkah cannot be found, the story of Hanukkah is not found in the Bible. It is a historical event that happened, again, more than 2,000 years ago, in the year 164, to be precise, before our era. And at that time, what is known as now Israel-Palestine was under Greek rule. Basically, a Greek king, Antiochus Epiphanes, who tried to impose Greek culture on Jews for a few years, and Jews actually effectively couldn't stand it. He tried to perform sacrifices, pagan sacrifices, within the temple. So within the most sacred place of Judaism, he was basically honoring pagan gods. That didn't go down very well. So there is a group called the Maccabees who fought against this oppression and were able to defeat the king. And they, as a celebration, they reconsecrated the temple. So, and they lit up the menorah, which is the candelabrum that was used in the temple. And this is where the miracle happened. They only had an amount of oil that should have lasted for 8 days. And instead, for 1 day.
1 day.
Instead, it lasted for 8 days. So Hanukkah is a holiday that lasts 8 days, because that's the memory of this miracle. It's also called the Festival of Lights for this reason.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think so important about it is we really fought for religious freedom. That's what we needed, and that's what we wanted. And when the Maccabees came in, they fought with was Greek Syrians, I believe, or Syrian Greeks, I'm not sure. But we were very fortunate, and still are, to have the menorah, which we didn't expect to have, because there was only enough oil for 1 day.
Right. And this is the miracle of really, that's why Hanukkah is also called the holiday of miracles. It was oil, by the way, because back in the day, it was olive oil that was used. So now we light the candles, or we can use oil in some other, candle holders. But this is really why also we eat on Hanukkah potato latkes, everything that's fried in oil. And Sufgania, do you have stories about latkes?
Well, I think we should clarify what latkes are.
Right, go ahead.
Okay, they're potato pancakes fried in oil. And also we do donuts, which of course you know, and those are fried in oil with a little good filling of some sort. But this is, of course, commemorating the oil again. And it's a real celebration for our families and us, because it's a good memory. And I was fortunate enough about 20 years ago to see the Western Wall, which was part of the old temple. And I didn't realize how important Hanukkah was till I saw that. It was wonderful.
So till you
So,
saw, yeah, I
yeah.
mean, what's also significant about this holiday, you know, there is this famous joke of, you know, they try to kill us, we survived, let's eat. But
Right.
in celebration, the fact that those foods are actually a symbol, right? It's like almost you're reenacting the ingredients of the food are meant
Yes.
to create the oil and the significance of and the presence of the miracle. So that's why it is a very, I mean, somehow not very healthy. Everything is deep fried, but you know, it's a celebration as well.
And potato pancakes are nothing like anyone's ever tasted unless they've had them. They're also called latkes, as you said, and they're really grated potatoes and onions and eggs and a little bit of flour, and they are delicious. So if you ever have the chance to taste one, you'll be glad. I mean, celebrating Hanukkah is very exciting for the family because of the gifts, and we'll talk more about that, of course.
Yeah, and it's also, so now we take latkes for granted, but for a long time in Eastern, it only came to Eastern Europe in the 19th century because
Right.
potatoes didn't come to Europe all that early. And before that, they had cheese. Ashkenazi Jews had cheese and other ingredients, but now it's completely, everybody knows about latkes, and this has become this kind of food. And in the Sephardi world, it's the sufganiyot, which are the donuts with, you know, custard or jam, are called bimuelos. But so the names change, but not the traditions.
Not the foods.
Not the foods.
Not the foods.
So, what are your memories of celebrating Hanukkah, Eileen?
Well, first I want to tell you that I'm now 87, and the reason I'm telling you is nothing's changed, and that's what you need to know. Everything is always the same. I've changed a little, but the lighting the menorah for 8 nights, having the dreidel, which is a little top that we spin. It's a kid's game, and it's wonderful. And that's it. That's it. And people have collections of those. They can be very pretty. And the kids love it because, of course, they get money, which we call gelt, G-E-L-T. And it's just a wonderful game we play, and you get some money for doing it if you get the right thing on the spin. And also, parents, of course, give gifts and give money to the children and to each other. It's pretty wonderful. So it's a very festive holiday.
Right, absolutely. And so what's also different from other holidays is that, for instance, on Pesach, Passover, or Yom Kippur, you have to abstain from working. Whereas Hanukkah, it doesn't come with major obligations. So
Right.
it's mostly, you know, it's a family holiday. And yeah, and so the dreidel is from Yiddish, obviously, and not obviously, but it sounds.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And it's traditional game that's played. It actually means to turn around, and so each side of the dreidel there is a letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and every letter actually stands for the first word of a sentence that says a great miracle happened there. So even in the games that are played, there is always an act of remembrance. And so each player usually has, you know, game pieces, or it can be chocolate, beans, whatever. Chocolate coins are a Hanukkah favorite.
Right.
And you put the coins in the center pot. And so if you get the G, which is Gimel, the player gets everything in the pot. So that's why
it's a fun game. Now, the children sometimes learned some of their Hebrew letters because the Hebrew letters on the dreidel, and they weren't writing or anything, so they just saw the Hebrew letters, and that was in a way to teach them.
Right.
You know.
So that, I mean, there is something which is very playful, but it's also educational.
Exactly.
the idea of every side of the dreidel that tells you that a miracle happened is also very beautiful and poetic in a way.
It is. It's very exciting to know that was a real miracle. I mean, they didn't think that they'd have enough oil for one night, and that they had it for 8. And that, of course, again, is why we light 8 candles and we celebrate 8 nights. So
do you want to talk about what happens when we light the candles? Because there are specific prayers that are said for when we light the candles.
Do you want to say them? Do you have them?
Yeah. Do you want to say them? Should we say them
Well,
together?
Unless you want me to sing them, and you don't want that, so go ahead and say them.
Okay. So I'll say them in English so that
Okay, good.
So blessed are you, Lord, our God, King of the universe, who sanctified us with his commandments and commanded it to kindle the Hanukkah light. So there is this idea of really thanking for kindling the light. And then there is another mention. There's 2 prayers each night. Blessed are you, Lord, our God, King of the universe, who performed miracles for our ancestors in those days at this time. So right. It's again, reassessing the necessity of remembering miracles, and that's sure. I mean, in a way, in a world where sometimes gratitude is not necessarily the most widespread thing. I think it's important. And there is another prayer that is only said the first night, right? Right. Which thanks God for having granted us life and sustained us and brought us to this time. So again, because nothing in life should not even be taken for granted. So that's
boy. You know, I'm gonna break into just tell you this. My mother was from the Ukraine. Now, remember, this was, over 100 years ago. And of course, she taught us about Hanukkah. And I was just thinking the other day, how wonderful that we can still celebrate it. And hopefully the Jews in the Ukraine can still celebrate it. Right, yeah. Because it's just an exciting holiday. But I think people get it mixed up with Christmas.
That's one of the great misconceptions of Christmas. Yeah, it's Christmas. No, that's not Christmas. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that I'm in a community that's partially everything. You name it, and we're here. And the people are wonderful, and we all like each other. But Christmas being such a big, wonderful holiday, people confuse it with our holiday, with Hanukkah, and there is nothing the same. So not at all. So Christmas is Christmas in all its glory, and Hanukkah is all the Jewish holiday in all its glory. So I think people need to know that there's a real separation.
You know why that is? Probably is that most of the time, because of its place in the Hebrew calendar, it falls around the same time as
exactly.
Christmas. So sometimes in good years, which I like. I mean, there is this, it almost, overlaps with Christmas Day. And so this is what people call Chrismukkah, right?
Yeah, right.
So, but I also think that over time, and especially since the 19th century, Hanukkah was a way for Jews to feel included in the holiday season. Sure. And so, I mean, instead of seeing Christian children get their gifts, Jewish kids were able to also have their own holidays. So I think that's a great way of showing that a society can have multiple holidays at the same time and recognize everybody's specificity.
Very important.
Yeah, and so I was thinking, I don't know if you saw Steven Spielberg's latest movie, The Fabelmans, which is about, it's autobiographical, and you have this little kid who, they're driving back to the suburbs, I think it's in New Jersey, and all the houses are lit up with Christmas candles and their house is just pitch dark. Sure. And he goes like, why is that the case? So I mean, the idea of having also festival of lights at the time where there is
right.
Lighting everywhere is very important. Yeah.
Because ours is light also. I mean, we don't have a tree, but we have a menorah.
Right.
And we can sort of celebrate together. We do it here at Vitalia. I mean, we have menorahs and we're going to have the latkes. Remember, those are the potato pancakes, which I can't wait for.
How can one forget about the latkes?
Right. And I think it's wonderful that we learn about each other and why we celebrate, and we can celebrate together, which is also wonderful. And, you know, when I was in school, because I was a minority, I learned all the Christmas songs. So then I went to Hebrew school and learned the Jewish songs, which I am not singing for you today. I thought about it, but you're very lucky. But seriously, it's very nice because we can enjoy each other and celebrate together.
Right. And there's also something which is beautiful about Hanukkah. That's not a holiday that's meant to be just kept for ourselves. It's a holiday that, you know, it's the illumination of the house, so that the Hanukkah, you know, menorah has to be put in a place that is visible. So the lamps are set at a prominent window in the house or the door leading to the street, so that, you know, if the miracle happens, you know, it's proof that miracle, and it's a memory of the miracle, but also it's like sharing the miracle with the world. And this idea of putting it really so that passersby can see that there, you know, at some point light prevail over darkness. And that, I think, is one of the very important teachings of Hanukkah, which we can use at any point in our lives. And, you know, certainly over the past few years, there's been a lot of darkness. And this idea of sharing the light with the world is also part of the meaning of the holiday.
Yeah, very exciting to be able to do that, because we get the lights from the menorah, we get the lights, of course, from Christmas, and we just can all know what we're doing. I mean, it's wonderful. Right. The menorah is a beautiful thing to see. Do you have one to show people? Or do you have one with you? I don't. Do we have a menorah to show? Yeah, we'll get one and show it, because I'm not sure everybody knows.
My seat otherwise.
But okay.
You know, it's also really interesting how the celebration of Hanukkah has changed over the years, because it is more observed now than it used to be. And that's also, it started really those public menorah lighting, started in the 1970s. And the first one in 1974, the biggest one now is at Fifth Avenue near Central Park in New York. It stands at 32 feet. Which is enormous. Really? There's over, I think, 15,000 public menorah lighting. And that goes back to the first, and I mean, the most prominent one is obviously on the lawn of the White House. And that started with President Carter. So since 1979, there has been a menorah lit on the White House.
At the White House.
Yeah. So, and it's, you know, it's been 40 years, but it's really, it shows how Hanukkah has become part of, oh, here it is. That's a
Here's one.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
Right.
The one at the White House, I think, is on the front lawn.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure everybody will, you know, get to see it, and it's all lit up. We haven't lit ours at all. This is the main candle. It's called the shamash. And then when you're lighting with light, because we don't use a match here, but when you're lighting it, you light this one first, and then you light subsequently 8 nights.
Yeah, so you light one the first night, 2 the second night, and on the 8th night, all the candles are lit, and that's absolutely beautiful.
Isn't it wonderful? So if you're in New York, go see it. And for sure, we want them to see the one at the White House, because that is amazing. I've seen that one. And you can get menorahs. People ask, you know, where do you get them? And all the stores have them now. Even the stores that aren't religious stores, you can, you know, a Bed Bath & Beyond, a Target, they all have menorahs. So if you want to buy one, I'm advertising for them. No, but seriously, you can get them anywhere. They're not, you know. And what's very exciting is for the children. because they get the little.
Let's talk about the Hanukkah gelt as well, right?
Oh, that's right. Well, Hanukkah gelt means Hanukkah money. Gelt means money. And we have these little bags. I'm sorry I don't have any, but little bags of coins that are gold with chocolate inside. And it's very common to have those, and the kids love it. And then we give them real money too, and they get very excited about the holiday. What do you do on the holiday? What does your family do?
Well, I mean, Hanukkah gelt is a favorite.
Right.
My family is partly from, I mean, I'm part Sephardi, part Ashkenazi, so it's like.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, Hanukkah gelt is certainly something that we start scouting. Actually, the reason why I don't have it now is that it's sold out in New York, like in the places that I was supposed to.
Oh, New York's the place to go. And you can buy latkes, by the way. You don't have to make them. A lot of stores in New York sell them.
Right.
And in other parts of the country, actually, the best I've had yet, because we've been searching a little, is Costco. An advertisement for Costco. But they're really great. So, if you've never had any and you want to try them, you can come to Vitalia Solon. You can go to New York. But, we're all going to be celebrating the same thing.
And so what's also really moving is that, in the New York Times or in the number of newspapers or magazines now, you have recipes for latkes. I mean, it has.
Yes, you do.
Enter the cultural, the culture and the national identity. By the way, the menorah on the White House lawn is called the national menorah, which
really? Isn't that exciting? Oh, well, I want to go back to this since I'm a food person. We used to make the latkes when I was a little girl. My mother would grate the potatoes on these old-fashioned graters. And then when her hands began to bleed, she stopped. I mean, it's really a big job. And now we have Cuisinarts. We never had that kind of thing. So it's interesting how things progress.
Yeah.
But in the Ukraine, they're still doing them by hand.
Right.
It's wonderful.
Hopefully, since it's a story about liberation and freedom, I hope that that's another added meaning. I think that it's also why Hanukkah is, speaks, to Jews, obviously, but speaks across, religions and nationalities. It's a story of a people that was able to, to topple an oppressive regime. So,
right. And there's so much oppression today. And we need to remember that everyone needs to have freedom and wants it, of course. And it's a real celebration of freedom for us because of the two temples that were destroyed.
Exactly. And that also happens because of the place in the Hebrew calendar. In our hemisphere, it falls around the winter solstice. So that's the time of the year where the days are the shortest and the nights are the longest. And I really like the idea of, sometimes we struggle to find light and to find something that, to pierce through the darkness. And so the fact that this story and this holiday of light and miracles happens exactly when the darkness is at its, most, overwhelming is also beautiful. I think that the place in the calendar is also very symbolic and powerful
and very important, so that they understand that Christmas and Hanukkah are not the same, but they're both a celebration in their lights and their freedom.
Right. Yeah.
And the idea of putting lights out in front where people can see them is really lovely. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. So where is your family from? I'm sorry, Ukraine on your mother's side?
On my mother's side. And my father was from Hungary. Okay. And everybody else.
Think about, is there any specific tradition that you'd like to share about your Hanukkah memories or?
Oh, yes, because when they came, they were very poor, of course. Nobody had anything. And but potatoes were available, of course, and you could go to your local temple and they would give you all the ingredients if you want, or they would help you, or they would prepare them. And so there was always a wonderful celebration. And even today, some of the people I meet remember when their parents and grandparents came. It seemed that everybody was poor then. So potatoes were a good choice. But I think what's also exciting is a lot of people go back to Israel now that have never had the opportunity. And they go up to the Western Wall, which of course is part of the temple. And and I think the White House doing this has been a very exciting time, and everyone can see it.
No, I think really turning the holiday and showing how that the public should participate. I mean, even in office buildings in Manhattan, or I mean, in many places, you do see those menorah. I mean, they're called Hanukkah also, just because they have like 9 candles instead of 7. Sometimes menorahs are actually the real term of the temple is 7. But Hanukkah and Hanukkah menorahs have 9, and there is something again like really powerful about what it means to be coming together and to see someone else's holiday, and that's why this program is so meaningful, to understand what it means for your community and also share in rejoicing together. And finding the meaning of miracles and actually chasing miracles in your lives. I think that's
it really is a miracle. It was a miracle and still is. So yeah, we're excited about it. Thank you. It's especially wonderful for children. We had some children come in from where I live in Solon in Ohio, and they brought a menorah this morning, real cute, that they made, and pictures, and look at this. And can you see, the kids made it? Thank you. And they made pictures, which was so cute.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think that's also because it's not a holiday where you have to fast, or I mean, like there's little strings attached, no pun intended. There's no obligation. It's not, sometimes the sitter, which is also, I mean, there is a place in the sitter that is for children, but it can feel like a very long meal, and through the rituals is whereas Hanukkah is just pure enjoyment. And
that's right. Fun for them and for us, and it'll be wonderful. Okay, so we could talk for a minute about the misconceptions about Hanukkah, because there are a lot of them. Mainly for me, I think my friends and my family here and all that, which is 100 people, a little over 100, need to know that it is a Jewish holiday about miracles, and that it is not Christmas. We enjoy it, and we do all the wonderful things that Hanukkah talks about, but it should not be confused with Christmas. And that's one of the messages, that we'd like to tell people, because we have wonderful Christmas parties here, and we all go. and this year we're going to have Hanukkah parties that people can go to. So the whole thing's, and it's about freedom. Freedom is never not the most important thing. It's commemorating, freedom.
Right, and not taking it for granted, which is also why those prayers, when you light the candles, are so important. Really remembering that the miracles happened, and that we as a people, but in general, have to inherit this memory and to reenact. And what is really beautiful about the holidays in general is that by lighting the candles, by even eating those food that are delicious, so we eat them no matter what, but there is also a gesture when you ingest something of like really the symbol becomes yours, right? The
Right.
oil of again, it's very oily, it's very greasy, it's perfect, but there is something that becomes part of your identity when you ingest it.
Sure.
And really this reenacting or remembering collectively and turning what, sometimes painful episodes of history into a joy, a reason for joy or celebration, is also something beautiful about life, right? This is how you can turn things around and try to also honor the memory of those who came before. I mean, there's obviously so many years where Hanukkah was just, not a place where people could, celebrate. So that's also a tribute to those who came before, to be able to do this and be aware of, like this first prayer that I mentioned, like, thank you for having God, for having brought us to this time, to this moment in time, not taking it for granted because others, ancestors were not able to do so and to enjoy this. Like when you think about it, having a menorah on the White House, on the lawn of the White House.
Right, isn't that, it is most wonderful.
Can you imagine this in Tsarist Russia at the time of pogroms, that any government would have a menorah lit up and as a celebration? This is
most people, or many people that I know, have never heard the word pogrom, and they don't even know what it is.
Right.
But,
yeah. It's a persecution of Jews under the Russian Empire. Yeah, in the 19th.
So when we talk about freedom, that's very important for all of us. Sure.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that you'd like to share about the holiday? I love hearing your stories.
Well, what I like the best is when kids get all excited about it, when they came here today and brought the menorah and brought little pictures and, that they made, and they're only 4 and 5 years old, so it was exciting. And, we didn't have these adult communities when I was young. There was no such thing. Everybody lived with grandma or grandpa and died there. But because everybody has careers now, it was important that they had communities like this. And of course, we get educated in these communities about each other, and we share holidays and everything together. So it's a good thing.
Right, and it's also very important. I mean, the idea of having children involved also means that you're passing out, les dor vador, like from one generation to the next.
Yes,
so
very.
You can say that it's something which is commercial. If you want to be like someone who's negative, you can say it's commercial. Like there is so much business involved in this. But it's also very important for transmission purposes, right? I mean, this is the next generation that's going to be able to do it and pass it on to
families together, and children and families, and it makes for a lot of healthy mental issues. I mean, the kids they look forward to this, and there's a sense of belonging. Very important today, especially today. People get separated too much, and we're just. That religious freedom is what we're looking for everyone.
Right. And also we have to go back to the very meaning of religion. I mean, etymologically, religion means to bring people, to bring together, to
sure.
bind. And so sometimes, I mean, oftentimes, too often, we hear about religious divides and religious wars, but this idea of bringing people together, whether it's within one religious faith or across religions, is also, it's a miracle in and of itself. So that's also
exactly.
Look, we went through a lot, and we probably wouldn't be speaking on Zoom today if it hadn't been for all the heartbreak and these horrible times of the pandemic. So, I mean, not that, it doesn't take away all the grief and the mourning, but the very idea of being able to speak with you from, like New York.
I feel the same.
And Ohio, this in and of itself another little miracle, which I really...
It is a miracle. I had COVID. Did you?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, You know, I had a good case of it. And to be, well, and to be here celebrating the miracle, which it is, and religious freedom, which is so wonderful. And we have to be very careful now about anti-Semitism, which we always did. But, you know, programs like this and people caring about each other and each other's holidays makes the world a better place to live.
Exactly. It's bringing some light into this world and never let the darkness have the
You're
final.
right. Oh, wonderful.
I mean, you did so perfect.
It was wonderful, and thank you. And happy Hanukkah, everybody.
Happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
And I think to myself,